Have you ever prayed for a miracle, only to feel like heaven stayed silent? What if the battle you're facing is bigger than what human strength can solve? And what happens when fear, pain, and darkness meet the unstoppable authority of Jesus Christ? The next morning, after the glory on the mountain had faded from the eyes of the disciples, Jesus walked back down toward the crowds waiting below. The air was heavy with noise, confusion, and desperation. People pushed forward, hoping to see him, hoping to touch him, hoping that somehow this teacher from Galilee could change their lives forever. Among the crowd stood a father whose heart had been crushed by years of helplessness. His son was all he had, and his son was suffering. The man had likely tried everything. He had listened to advice from neighbors, sought help from religious leaders, and spent countless sleepless nights watching the child he loved be thrown into violent torment again and again. Every scream of the boy cut deeper into his soul. The child was not simply sick. Something dark had taken hold of him. Without warning, the boy would collapse to the ground. His body would convulse violently. He would cry out with terrifying screams. Foam would gather around his mouth. Bruises covered his skin from falling into dangerous places during the attacks. The spirit tormenting him showed no mercy, and worst of all, no one could stop it. The father had heard stories about Jesus. Stories of blind eyes opening, stories of lepers healed with a touch, stories of storms obeying his voice. Hope began to grow in the man's heart. Perhaps Jesus could save his son. But when he arrived, Jesus was not there. Only the disciples remained. The father begged them to help. He pleaded with tears in his eyes, "Please save my boy." The disciples stepped forward confidently. They had seen miracles before. They had cast out demons before. Perhaps they expected another quick victory. But this time nothing happened. The spirit remained. The boy continued suffering. The disciples tried again, but they could not free him. Now the crowd watched in confusion. Religious teachers began arguing. Some mocked the disciples. Others whispered that maybe Jesus' power had been exaggerated all along. The father's hope started dying once more. Then suddenly, movement spread through the crowd. Jesus had arrived. People stepped aside as he approached. His presence carried authority unlike anyone else. Even before he spoke, something changed in the atmosphere. The father rushed toward him immediately. His voice trembled with desperation. "Teacher, I beg you, look at my son. He is my only child." Every word carried the pain of years. The man explained how the spirit seized the boy without warning, throwing him into convulsions and nearly destroying him. Then he confessed something heartbreaking. "I begged your disciples to cast it out, but they could not." For a brief moment, silence filled the air. Then Jesus spoke words that startled everyone listening. "O faithless and twisted generation, how long shall I stay with you and bear with you?" These were not words of cruelty. They were words filled with grief. Jesus saw people surrounded by God's power, yet still trapped in unbelief. He saw disciples trying to fight spiritual battles without complete dependence on God. He saw a generation that doubted even while miracles stood before their eyes. And yet, even in frustration, Jesus did not walk away from the suffering child. His compassion remained greater than human failure. "Bring your son here," he said. The father turned and called for the boy. But as the child approached Jesus, the demon reacted violently. The spirit slammed the boy to the ground before everyone watching. His body shook uncontrollably in the dirt. The crowd gasped in horror. Imagine the father in that moment. He had probably seen this scene hundreds of times before. But now it happened right in front of Jesus. Would this end differently? Would his son finally be free? Or would darkness win again? Then Jesus stepped forward. No panic. No fear, no struggle. He simply rebuked the unclean spirit. With absolute authority, he commanded the darkness to leave the boy, and instantly, everything changed. The violent shaking stopped, the screaming ended, the torment vanished. Peace came over the child for the first time in years. The same boy who moments earlier had been trapped in chaos now stood restored before the crowd. Jesus took him and gave him back to his father. Can you imagine that father's tears? The son he thought he might lose forever now stood whole in his arms. The nightmare was over. The darkness was gone. The crowd stood amazed at the greatness of God. No magician could do this. No human power could explain it. This was the authority of heaven breaking into human suffering. This was Jesus Christ revealing that no force of darkness could stand against him. And this story still speaks powerfully today. Because even now, many people are fighting battles they cannot overcome alone. Some battles are visible, others are hidden deep inside the heart. There are people smiling in public while privately drowning in fear, addiction, anxiety, anger, hopelessness, or spiritual oppression. Families are breaking apart. Young people are losing direction. Hearts are weighed down with pain no one else understands. Sometimes we try everything we can. Advice, money, distractions, self-help, temporary solutions. Yet the emptiness remains. The struggle continues. This father teaches us something important. When human strength failed, he still ran to Jesus. That changed everything. Notice something else in the story. The disciples had previously experienced spiritual victories. They had seen miracles happen through God's power. Yet in this moment they failed because spiritual authority cannot be separated from dependence on God. Faith is not pretending to be strong. Faith is knowing where true strength comes from. There are moments when talent is not enough. Experience is not enough. Human confidence is not enough. We need Jesus, completely, daily, deeply. Many people today want the blessings of God without surrendering to God himself. They want peace without prayer, victory without obedience, freedom without repentance. But Jesus did not come merely to improve lives slightly. He came to break chains completely. The demon that tormented the boy was powerful to humans, but powerless before Christ. And the same Jesus still carries authority today. Fear bows before him, darkness bows before him, death bows before him, sin bows before him. No situation is beyond his reach. Perhaps you feel like that desperate father tonight. Maybe someone you love is suffering and you do not know what to do anymore. Maybe you have prayed for years. Maybe disappointment has weakened your hope. Do not stop bringing your burdens to Jesus. The father could have walked away after the disciples failed, but instead, he stayed long enough to meet Christ himself. And that encounter changed his life forever. There is another detail many people overlook. The demon became most violent right before it lost control. Sometimes the hardest moments come just before breakthrough. Sometimes darkness fights hardest when it knows its time is ending. Do not give up in the middle of the battle. God may be working in ways you cannot yet see. Jesus also revealed something important about spiritual blindness. The crowd was arguing while a child suffered. Religious debate surrounded real human pain. Even today, people argue endlessly about religion while broken souls cry out for hope. Jesus did not come merely to win arguments. He came to rescue people, to heal hearts, to restore lives, to bring light into darkness. And wherever Jesus truly enters, transformation follows. The boy did not heal himself. The Father could not save him. The disciples could not free him through their own ability. Only Jesus could. That truth humbles us, because salvation has never been about human perfection. It has always been about God's mercy. Some people believe they are too broken for God to help them, too sinful, too damaged, too lost. But look carefully at this story. Jesus did not reject the suffering child. He moved toward him. That is the heart of Christ. He moves toward the hurting, toward the weary, toward the hopeless, toward sinners, toward people the world has given up on. And perhaps that is why this miracle continues touching hearts centuries later. It reminds us that evil does not have the final word, pain does not have the final word, despair does not have the final word. Jesus does. When Christ speaks, darkness must leave. When Christ restores, no enemy can steal what he has healed. When Christ forgives, no accusation can stand. This miracle also points toward a greater rescue. The boy was freed from an unclean spirit, but humanity itself needs deliverance from the power of sin. Every human heart has been wounded by separation from God. Left alone, we remain trapped. But Jesus came not only to heal bodies or cast out demons, he came to save souls. At the cross, he confronted the deepest darkness of all, sin, death, evil. And through his resurrection, he proved forever that light overcomes darkness. That means your story is not hopeless. No matter what you have done, no matter what has been done to you, no matter how long the struggle has lasted, Jesus still invites people to come to him. Not tomorrow, not after becoming perfect, now. Maybe today you need freedom from fear. Maybe you need healing from bitterness. Maybe you need forgiveness. Maybe you need hope again. Bring your heart honestly before Jesus. The father in this story did not come pretending everything was fine. He came desperate, and Jesus responded with compassion and power. There is no shame in needing God. In fact, recognizing our need for Him is often the beginning of true transformation. The world teaches people to hide weakness, but the gospel teaches us to bring weakness to Christ, because His power is greater than our brokenness. Imagine the father walking home that evening beside his healed son. For the first time in years, perhaps there was silence instead of screaming, peace instead of fear, hope instead of despair. Everything changed because Jesus entered the situation. And Jesus still changes lives today. He still restores families. He still heals hearts. He still breaks chains. He still saves. If this message touched your heart, take a moment right now to reflect on the areas of your life where you need God's power. Do not carry your burdens alone. Bring them to Jesus in prayer, because nothing is impossible for Him. Thank you for watching this video. If you were encouraged today, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this message with someone who may need hope and healing tonight. May the peace and power of Jesus Christ guide your life always.